Hello there. Welcome to my show, COVID-19 update by Heerak. It's October 30th, 2020, a day before Halloween. And it's National Bandana Day. And you see a couple women there wearing their bandanas. Some wear it so well. You know what I mean? Um, what can I say? It's tragic. And sometimes, when you hear flute playing in the background, it kind of solicits kind of kind of sadness, time passing away, and cycle of life is set in motion. Yeah, what can we say? 1,891 people have died in the United States of America in the 24 hours in one day. As I said, it's possible for 10,000 Americans to die in one day. It's possible for 20,000 Americans to die in one day. The world is headed toward global COVID-19 death. I'm Heerak Christian King, independent candidate for U.S. Congress of Virginia's 8th District. And I'm predicting that there will be at least 100 million people around the world who die in the next 6 months of flu season. It's going to be bad. And you can see this because the flu season is just getting started, and we have nearly 2,000 people dying in a day. Yeah. It's like the earth is emptying itself of its life force. And you can feel it that we're kind of headed towards 6 months of COVID-19 death. You know how when deer realizes that a tiger or a lion or a wolf is nearby but can't see it? Isn't that how you feel? The COVID-19 is nearby, but you just can't see it. No one can see it really without a microscope, magnum power microscope, but it's there. And it's killing 1,891 people. I think back to CPAC 2020. It was in February. Some of you might have been there. And I find memories from CPAC. I sat next to a senator in the country of Colombia. As you know, Colombia is one of the countries in Latin America with a lot of COVID-19 deaths. And she's one of the senators, like, United States with US senators. She's a senator in Colombia, and her bodyguards were nearby, and she's a conservative senator from the country of Colombia. It was nice sitting next to her and just kind of talking about things and kind of appreciating all the good things that were going on in CPAC 2020. I got to meet some interesting people. Below me are college Republicans from Wake Forest University. They're really nice people. A lot of beautiful women in Wake Forest. They were telling me that there are 500 Republicans in the Republican, college group at Wake Forest, like members, card-carrying members. So I was like, wow, Wake Forest, that's college to maybe, consider. When you're, if you ever think about teaching or something, and if you're not married, there must be a lot of conservative women there. Next to that are couple people from this area. They live in Alexandria, and they were at CPAC. And I think the girl, the lady in yellow, works for the Heritage Foundation, I believe. It was nice to chat a little bit, get to know people. And she was really nice. This was in February, as you know, just before we start diving into COVID-19, America, where everything is closed. Um, so I was hoping to meet up with all these people I met at CPAC, but I wasn't unable to, unfortunately. And now already we're just a few days, ahead of the election. I don't know. Do you think I win? If God wants me to win, I'll win. I'm sure. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty excited, about running for U.S. Congress. Um, I guess none of us really expected the country to shut down in February. We're all kind of looking forward to a very heated and exciting campaign year. But it turned out to be kind of a bummer with everything closed. Um, but we were really excited at CPAC. Um, and college Republicans were particularly excited to see me, and they were very excited about my campaign. Many of them. Um, yeah, and so yeah, let's see what happens. Uh, there's a big question mark. About the election. We don't know what's going to happen, really. Do you? I mean, it looked like we could predict, and then COVID-19 hit, and everything just kind of changed. So no one really knows what's going to happen on Tuesday. We just don't know. Um, it's possible President Trump can win by a landslide. President Trump has a lot of things going for him. One of which is he's done really well in economy, and I truly believe that he's probably one of the best presidents the United States has had in terms of economy. And President Trump's curse is that COVID-19 hit America. If COVID-19 did not hit America, President Trump would have won by a landslide. He probably would have gone down in history as the president who brought America to absolute power and dominance in the world. Um, but unfortunately, President Trump almost was brought to his knees by COVID-19. But even in the midst of it, he did pretty good. We're having pretty good economic figures come out. So you can't really complain, in terms of what President Trump has done economically. I mean, he's done more than any other president could have. I'm sure if Joe Biden were in office, uh, America would have probably collapsed economically. We didn't have COVID-19. Do you remember when President Obama was president? America almost collapsed in 2008. Do you remember all the people just going bankrupt? Remember that in 2008? 2009? Yes, I mean, from an economic standpoint, probably not a good idea to vote for a Democrat, because they're so ideologically driven and they don't really put America first or American citizens first. So you're probably in a lose-lose situation if you vote in a Democrat to lead the country in the midst of a global pandemic. It's probably not a good idea. I mean, you may be Democrat watching this show. What do you think? Do you think it's a good idea to have Democrats lead America in a global pandemic with all their theoretical, you know, um, agendas? You know, um, in time of peace, you could have pet projects, but when you have a country collapsing economically, people dying like almost 2,000 every day, it's not a time to really joke around, with anything. And the problem with Democrats is they're so ideologically driven, and they have so many ideological things that they want to push In time of global pandemic or turmoil, this translates into suffering of the American people. You know, one of the reasons that we did not have stimulus check was because Pelosi wanted all these projects paid for. So she wasn't willing to sign off on a stimulus check package for American citizens unless she got all these other things, you know, liberal ideological things. So it was because of her liberal ideology that you don't have your stimulus checks. And I'm sure many of you would have done well with $1,200 per family stimulus checks. That would have helped you out a lot, wouldn't it? So, you know, when you think about that, you know, do you really want a president like Nancy Pelosi or a Democrat who's going to be playing these games, um, hoarding up your stimulus check? You know, that's something you have to ask, you know, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or independent. Because, you know, Dr. Fauci has said this COVID 19 will go at least until 2022. It's going to be like, you know what we're experiencing now? This is what you have until at least 2022. At least for 2 more years. What we have now is what you will have until 2022. You have to wear a mask wherever you go if you don't want to get COVID. You can't socialize at close distances with anyone, especially inside. Um, this is what you have for the next 2 years. So you gotta ask yourself, you know, what you would do during peacetime, time when there's no COVID. You know, you may not want to do that when there's COVID. You see what I'm saying? I would be afraid to vote for like Joe Biden because of the damage, you know, he may do with all his liberal ideology and progressive ideology. So that's one thing that would, you know, worry me. But obviously, all of you have to make a decision on your own. And Tuesday is coming. Many of you are still not decided. I understand that. They said in 2016 election, there were like 1/4 of the voters were not decided until like they walked up to the booth. They didn't know they were going to vote for Hillary Clinton or President Trump until the moment they walked up to the booth to press the button. Like they said, up to 1/4 of the voters were not decided. They weren't sure. And I think it's far higher now. I think maybe even up to 50% of the voters are planning to vote in November 3rd election. They don't know who they're going to vote for right now. I mean, let's say they're Democrats and they want to vote for Joe Biden, they still have a lot of misgivings. And they may end up pushing the button for Donald Trump uh, on November 3rd. Or they may push the Trump for another, push the button for another candidate. There's a libertarian candidate for president. There's a constitutional candidate for president. I met the constitutional candidate for president. Seems like a nice person. Um, you know, we don't know what people are going to do. Um, and people may be planning to vote for Trump, but they may switch their mind at the last moment. That's something that can happen. And I think President Trump, who has experienced slings and arrows of outrageous fortune as a businessman, remember, he went bankrupt 3 times. You know, he's a self made billionaire, but he went bankrupt 3 times. So, as someone who has experienced bankruptcy 3 times, he understands hardship that you're going through, some of you. Some of you may have filed for bankruptcy in the COVID 19 era. And some of you are planning to file for bankruptcy. You know, so you can understand what it means for President Trump to have gone through bankruptcy for 3 different times. It's not an easy thing. It's humiliating because your friends know about it. But, you know, many people who become really wealthy have experienced slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Um, but, you know, so President Trump I'm sure understands that people may decide not to vote for him at the last moment. I think that's something that President Trump understands can happen. We just don't know what's going to happen in the next few years. We just, you know, America can be completely changed if Biden wins. But because COVID-19 is unpredictable, even if President Trump wins, America can be very different 2 years from now. As you know, I'm predicting that at least 3 million and maybe around 30 million American citizens will die by June. So you can imagine how different America would be if that were to happen. Um, so right now, majority of Americans are uncertain. They don't know what to expect in the next year or two. They know Dr. Fauci, whom they respect, is saying we're going to have this situation for at least 2 more years. And some people are just pushing that out of their mind. Even nurses, you see nurses behind me, they don't want to deal with 2 more years of COVID-19, many of them, but Dr. Fauci is being optimistic, right? And he's saying 2 more years. There are people who are saying far more than that. Um, I think scientifically, there's proof that COVID-19 can be forever, like HIV virus or hepatitis C virus. There is no reason to think that it's going to go away. So, yeah, what can we expect? We don't know. Yeah. Oh. Some of you may want to take out a box of Kleenex thinking about this, especially if you're single ladies out there. You thought you'd have a nice time dating different guys and finding out which guy you want to marry. But basically that's thrown out the window. So it's tragic if you're like in your early 20s. You know, maybe the most tragic thing for you if you're like in early 20s because your beauty is not forever. Starting 26, your beauty goes down the hill. So you have limited time to use your beauty to get the best possible guy. And now you're wearing a mask. The guys can't even see your face. So even if you have a beautiful face, it's like half hidden. So I feel for you if you're a beautiful woman. Can you imagine? This is the worst possible thing that could happen to a beautiful woman. Someone who has been given natural beauty by God, and she has to wear a mask, cover half of her face all the time. How tragic is that? So I feel for you. There are a lot of nurses who are very pretty. I can't even begin to imagine how it feels to be one of these beautiful nurses who has to cover half her face all the time, not only inside the hospital, but even outside when she's in shopping center or, picking up coffee at Starbucks. She has to wear that mask. I can't imagine how she feels. She looks at herself in the mirror without the mask. And she knows she's beautiful. Everyone knows she's beautiful. And now she has to cover that face up because of COVID. And that's going to go on till what? 2022 at least, Dr. Fauci is saying. By that time, she may become 26. She may be 24 now. And the height of her beauty is gone. She may be going downhill. So you just kind of have to feel for that, You just have to kind of feel bad for feel sympathy for beautiful women in their 20s who cannot enjoy their beauty, For me as a poet, as you know, I write poetry. I think that's probably the most tragic aspect of COVID-19. All these beautiful women, especially in their 20s, they're like flower, beautiful flower which have to be covered up. It's sad for the world, but It's particularly sad for the flower, which have to be covered up, not to see the sunshine. So I think that's really sad. One of the prerogatives of beautiful women is being admired. Since time immortal, um, beautiful women have been admired. Poets have been writing poems about them. But maybe that's gone, at least during COVID-19. Can you imagine that? Years of your life just destroyed. Yeah, I feel for the beautiful women, like people who just graduate from nursing school, 20, 21, 22, who are working as nurses now. Can you imagine? It's tragic, you know? This is a time when they should be admired by like everybody, wherever they go, with their beauty. And now they are covered up wherever they are. It's like a prison, right? Their greatest asset is their beauty, and it's covered up. It's like their beauty is in prison. It's very sad, and like this windpipe music kind of goes along with the kind of feel of sadness, beauty flowing down the hill, headed for the waterfall. I bet mothers of beautiful women in their 20s, they feel the pain too because they're women. They understand. But unlike their daughters, they had their day, their heyday. They were admired by men, and the lucky ones were able to nab the guy that they wanted and marry them. You know, now the women in their 20s, their daughters, whom they had with the man that they love, now they're the best part of their life is basically gone. Look at those nurses behind me. Some of them are, some of them are pretty. You can't see it because there's all the mask. It's very, very sad. Can you imagine all these beautiful women from Wake Forest College Republican Party? If they had their faces covered up, you may not, you can't even touch their beauty for now, right? Yeah, it's hard, very hard for them. Yeah, yeah, it's very, very sad. We have 229,594 people have died in America because 1,891 people have died in the last 24 hours. 9,036,678 people have gotten COVID. The United States is number one, as you can see, among the cases in the world. 9,036,678 people have gotten COVID at 3% death rate. 229,594 people have died. India is number two at 8,088,851 at 1% death rate. 121,090 people have died. Brazil is number three with 5,494,376 cases at 3% death rate. 158,969 people have died. Russia is number four, significantly lower than the top three. 1,588,433. And at 2% death rate, 27,462 people have died. France is number 5. It rushed up to number 5 with 1,377,347 cases and 36,605 deaths, a 3% death rate. Um, Flu season is basically upon us. We're gonna have 6 months of it. So you could expect a lot of people to die in the next 6 months. It's going to be very, very sad. You know, yeah, it's going to be very, very sad. But I do have good news. My Georgetown University nursing pin arrived. Yeah, it arrived today. Amanda Patterson, our clinical nurse leader, administrator at Georgetown University, mailed all of us our Georgetown University nursing pin via Federal Express. So I got mine today, and my fellow CNL 2020 were texting on our group chat that they received theirs. Yeah, it's pretty nice. You know, when you see it, you see how nice Georgetown's nursing pin is. It's nice, right? Yeah, Georgetown nursing pin is very, very nice. Right? Very, very nice. So yeah, so basically, you know, um, this is what we've been waiting for, our CNL 2020. So I'm going to cheer. CNL 2020, yay! CNL, CNL. We got our pins today, yay! We got our pins. So today is actually a good day. I know I started out with a lot of sad stuff, but you know, I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, you had 2,000 people dying in 24 hours in America, fellow US citizens. It is a sad day, but personally for me, I mean, it is a good day because I got my nursing pin, you know. Yeah, my nursing pin is here, so I can't complain. Yeah, it's a nice pin. Um, it's difficult to show it off though, you know, because we don't really have many functions. I stopped buying new clothes like since March. So what's the point? You know, I'm gonna wait until COVID-19 is done. Because like, you know, how many social functions do you go to now? You know? I mean, things are changed, you know? Uh, it's like water running out. You know what I mean? The whole society is kind of emptying itself of a lot of fun, a lot of events. Um, you know, it's a sad period in U.S. history. You know, there's no denying it. A lot of people are losing their jobs. You know, there are a lot of families which are having a hard time paying for food for their children. Um, it's a very sad time for the American people right now. Yeah, so you know, you wish that this will be over soon, but we know it won't be. You know, it's kind of like just imagine what it felt like to be an Irish person in the potato famines. You see your friends and neighbors dying. There's no food, and you know it's not going to go away. And so a lot of Irish Catholics they, they left their country, homeland of Ireland, in search of food, basically. Um, because people are motivated by food and shelter, right? They need that to survive. And that's why a lot of Americans are very mad, angry at Pelosi for blocking the stimulus checks for them. So who knows? You know, she may be voted out. We don't know what will happen. But a lot of Democrats are mad. Um, Maybe more so than Republicans, you know, because they, you know, stimulus checks only help people who make less than $100,000. So we're talking about working class Americans who need that check, Um, not like wealthy people because they're not going to get the stimulus check even if the package passes, right? It's just the poor people who get it, on middle class. So there are a lot of Americans who are angry, who are in the middle class, who actually need that money. Um, yeah, so we don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday. You know, if people are angry, and as they're about to take the vote, they just feel that anger. They may just like vote against all the Democrats just because they're angry. If they didn't get a stimulus check, and Nancy Pelosi did not help them get it. So, so that could be a phenomenon if it happens nationally, and we'll only know after the election is done, like on Wednesday, um, whether that's the case. It's also possible people just ignore it and vote straight down the party line. That's also possible too. Um, it's possible that people can blame the Republicans and President Trump because they'll say, well, Nancy Pelosi is doing what she did to block stimulus checks, but President Trump didn't help us either, Um, and he's the president. And so it's possible some people may blame President Trump. And so we really don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday. We just don't know. I mean, things can change even during Tuesday. Like in the morning, people could be voting like that down the party line. Maybe there's an event that happens or something somebody says that sways people to like vote in another direction, or everybody to vote for the same person, whether it's Biden or Trump. And then you have an upset. Midway through the election, it's kind of like you're watching a Super Bowl, and a team that is losing comes from behind the third quarter or even fourth quarter and wins the Super Bowl. That does happen. So we really don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday. It's a toss up right now. Nobody really knows. Um, and I think that's adding to some anxiety of people, because they don't know what to expect. They know the polls are not they're not really reliable because it's COVID-19 America. Anything can happen. People can change their mind. Look at the eyes of Harry the owl. Yeah, he's like, he has no idea what's going to happen. You know, um, for me, it's kind of exciting because anything can happen. Um, there are people who are preparing for riots. There are like riot police. Some states are even considering deploying the National Guard. Um, and some journalists are saying it doesn't matter who wins, whether Republicans or Democrats, there can be rioting. Um, and obviously that means there can be looting. Um, so let's say President Trump wins and people who hate him starts rioting and looting, and this happens in every city. Can you imagine what could happen? But the same thing can happen if Joe Biden wins. Because many people who support President Trump believe that he will win by a landslide. So if President Trump doesn't win by a landslide, there are people who will think that the election is fixed. So they could riot as well. And there could be looting. So we don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday, not only in terms of who's going to win the election, but in terms of what's going to happen in the nation. The worst case scenario is we have an armed conflict, or we may even have a coup d'etat, like, they may try to overthrow the government if they don't like who won, whether it's Biden or Trump. So we can have a very violent day on Tuesday with a lot of people dying in every city. We can even have change of regime or change of government if there is a revolution of some kind that succeeds. Whether for Biden or against Biden, whether for Trump or against Trump, I actually think it's not a bad idea to bring, National Guard, Army National Guard to Washington, D.C. and station them from Monday, just for a week to ensure that, spontaneous violence doesn't erupt, you know. And the presence of a military helps quell the peace, or maintain the peace and quell the riot. But some might feel President Trump won't do that because he may be afraid that that's going to send the wrong message, and the he'll be afraid that people will vote against him if he does that. So history is sometimes filled with series of unfortunate events, or there are factors beyond your control that line up, like the constellation lines up. It lines up and it ends up causing something in history that some might have suspected, but takes the whole nation by surprise. I don't think anybody should be surprised or shocked if there is massive violence in every city in the United States of America on Tuesday, election night, when the results are out. I think that's something that you should expect. You may want to go out and get a shotgun or an AK-47 to protect your family in case the riot goes out of hand. People break into your home. I mean, they could rape your daughter, rape your wife. If there's a lot of violence, police won't be there to protect you. So you may want to go and invest on a shotgun, AK-47 tomorrow. I mean, you decide. You have a family and you love them, and they could be in danger. You may need to protect them. So violence is something that people are not really talking about in CNN that much. I think some people have talked about it, but I think that is a real possibility. I mean, we saw how violent things can get. The George Floyd protests. Um, we know that both sides are very unhappy right now. So we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you may have, nobody may know, but there may be thousands of people plotting something for Tuesday night. Right here in Washington, D.C. area, I'm in Arlington, Virginia, you just don't know. You never know. Um, but I think if violence erupts all over America and in all 50 states, you should not be surprised. There are several reasons why you should not be surprised. Number one, everybody's fed up with COVID, even people who are wearing masks and trying to follow protocol not to get COVID, they're mad at COVID. Anger is everywhere. People who don't want to wear masks are angry. People who want to wear masks are angry. Everybody's angry. So I think one thing that is common in America among 330 million people is the collective anger. Now, so anger is building up in every American's heart. Some are suppressing it, some are internalizing it. People are trying to ignore it, some of them. but it's possible that anger can erupt on election night. Um, and I don't think you should be surprised because it's the normal human nature uh, to get angry. You know, it's one of the grieving stages. You know, beautiful women who have to wear a mask can't show their beautiful face. You know, they're grieving because they can't show their face. And one of the stages of grief is anger. Anybody, you know, who has tragedy that is unexpected happen to them, right? Like their son dying from COVID-19 or their daughter being paralyzed from a stroke from COVID-19, you know, you can feel anger. And it's a natural human reaction. But the problem is the tragedy is happening to all 330 million people in America. So whereas in normal times, you know, there are isolated individuals who may feel anger, but now there are 330 million Americans who are feeling angry. There are different degrees and there are different ways of coping, but everybody's probably struggling with their anger in some way. Um, we have a lot of people who have lost their jobs. You have a lot of people, you know, obviously who didn't get stimulus checks that Nancy Pelosi blocked. Um, you know, just a lot of bad things are happening right now. So it is very sad. And people can use the election as an excuse to vent their anger. You know, in normal times they'll be like, "I'm angry, but I'm not gonna look like a weirdo by just getting angry." You see what I'm saying? But on election night, they could say, whoever wins or whoever loses, whatever the reason is, they could use that as an excuse. I mean, I think every police department in every city and every town should be on red alert. They should be in riot gear. They should have like semi-automatic rifles ready to go in the back trunk of their police vehicle. I don't think having, uh, MK, AK-47 or M16s ready. I mean, you may have a lot of police officers getting shot to death on Tuesday night. That's one thing that every police officer will have to worry about on Tuesday is just getting shot to death, gratuitously shot to death by people who are venting their anger in the street. Um, every police officer in Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County, they should not be surprised if there are people shooting at them. I mean, I think it's wrong. You should not shoot at police officers. I like police officers, and I stand against defund police. But this is a very liberal area, you know. A lot of people vote Democrat, and there's a support among some people for defund police. So I don't think anybody should be surprised if people in Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County are shooting at police officers, and dozens of police officers are shot dead on election night. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen, but it could happen, and that's why I think every police officer should be wearing the vest, and I would say have the helmet, those riot gear helmet ready to go, because if there's a riot, they better just put that helmet on to protect their head. And they should have their AK-47 or M16s in their trunk, ready to take out. I mean, you need to be in riot gear. I would say if you're a police officer in Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County, and obviously certainly in Washington, D.C., Howard County, Montgomery County, if you think it's going to be peaceful on Tuesday night, I think you're being naive. All of us have seen what happened on George Floyd protests, so for you to think that it's going to be a peaceful night on Tuesday, um, I think you're being very, very naive, or you're in a state of denial. There's going to be violence. The question is, what's the level of the violence? It may be just people taking to the streets and looting, but I think there will be a lot of murders. Like, I think there will be like defund police supporters intentionally shooting at police officers that night. I think that's something that every police officer should be ready for. They should be, they should have their shield, everything ready. Because if you're not ready, if you think it's going to be a peaceful night, you know, you you know, how did you become a police officer if you can't anticipate danger? Um, you see what I'm saying? So I think you need to be in red alert if you're a police officer, not only for your department. I think every police department should close off police, like close off the building with fences, because people could rush the police department, attack the police department. Um, I think you should expect the worst and hope for the best. Um, we know what happened in George Floyd protests. Um, Spontaneous protests can happen. In the case of election night on Tuesday, spontaneous violence can happen. There may be people getting weapons ready just for that night, just to do mayhem. You know, um, I think if you're a police officer and you're a good police officer, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. It makes sense to you because you understand criminality. Um, I'm a historian, so I study criminality, human nature. I investigate how that fits into place during human events. Um, yeah, President Trump should like hanker in place in the White House. Ready to go to the bunker if any kind of problem happens. I won't be moving around outside. There'll be people trying to assassinate him, especially if he wins. Who knows how many people will try to assassinate him that night, wherever he is. So I wouldn't be outside of the White House if I were President Trump, but you do what you want. Um, and obviously, Joe Biden should worry because um, there. I'm sure there are people who would want to make sure that he doesn't become president. So yeah, the night is going to be horrible, especially because people are fixated on this. There's really nothing else to fixate on. Um, I think hospitals should triple their guard. I mean, I think you should have armed guards ready at hospital entrances because hospitals have all kinds of medication. You know narcotics. Like opium. You know, uh, all kinds of painkillers, and they're worth a lot in the black market. And I think the hospitals should expect certain conspiracies by, you know, quote criminals to potentially target hospitals, um, because they know that it's minimally guarded. You know, they know it's basically filled with nurses. Like behind me, I'm a nurse, as you know, in Virginia Hospital Center in Arlington, Virginia. And some of you came to a hospital and were treated by me, right? Yeah, come to Virginia Hospital Center. I'm an excellent nurse. I'm an amazing nurse. Those of you who are treated by me in Virginia's 8th District know how good I am. Yeah, so come to Virginia Hospital Center. If you have any issues that need to be taken care of, maybe you'll have me as your nurse. Um, but seriously, especially hospitals and cities have to worry. I would say you have to triple your guards, and you need armed guards that day. Because if there are people coming in with guns, you need to be able to hold them off with guns, right? I mean, nurses, like we nurses, rely on the security personnel to protect the hospital. But if you have a violent mob coming to the hospital in the brouhaha of rioting with their guns, I mean, geez, and security guards are not ready to defend the hospital and the nurses and doctors and patients, it could be a very bad situation. That's what I'm saying. I think every hospital should go to red alert. I'm sure Melody Dickerson, who's a very great nurse, CEO, our chief nursing officer at Virginia Hospital Center. I'm sure she put into place a lot of security measures for election night. Um, I'm sure, and I mean, good executives, I'm sure, anticipate these kind of things. Um, oh, by the way, we got a raise. Thank you, Chief Nursing Officer Melody Dickerson. Every one of us in Virginia Hospital Center, we got a raise. So, well, the full-time nurses, we got a raise. So, yeah, yeah, thank you. That's really very nice of you. Because we are entering COVID-19 era, and as you know, many of us are gonna probably die in COVID-19 or get COVID-19 and suffer miserably. So it is a high risk job. So I think that's really nice and kind of Virginia Hospital Center and obviously our chief nursing officer Melody Dickerson to give us a raise. Um, yeah, so we're excited. You should have seen all the nurses working really hard. We got the email about our raise yesterday, and everybody was like working extra hard in the shift. I worked a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift, and I see everybody's just working really, really hard. People are motivated by a raise. I'm telling you. Um, yeah, I mean, they feel grateful. They feel grateful that um, Chief Nursing Officer Melody Dickinson raised the pay of all the full-time nurses, so they felt grateful. So they're like really working hard to show their gratitude. It's I could see people working harder than other times. I mean, everybody works hard all the time, but I mean, wow, people were really working hard yesterday, like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So I think people are like that. Most normal people, when you show them kindness, they wanna kind of repay the kindness. They want to be a better person. So when you show kindness, people become better. That's why I hate flunking. I do not flunk anybody. Like in my I like remember I'm a fifth grade elementary school teacher. In high school, in elementary school, fifth grade. So before I went to Georgetown University master's program in clinical nurse leader, it was 2 years program, full time. I taught full time at Savoy Elementary School, fifth graders in Anacostia neighborhood. Um, and out of 100% of the students in the fifth grade, there were only one, one student, I think, or two students whose math level was at fifth grade. The smartest ones, their math level was like at fourth grade level. And then majority of the students, their math level was at first grade or second grade. Obviously, we have the assessment scores from the beginning of the first day. Even before the first day, we have the assessment scores. Um, me being the math teacher for all the fifth graders, um, I had to put in place a kind of a strategy to make sure I improve their math skills. And the goal was to improve math skills several grade levels. Not just one grade because they're like 3, 4 grade levels behind, like over 90% of them. Now, some people I've heard this from some teachers. They're like, well, why don't you hold them back? I don't see anything good about holding anybody back because it's not like they're going to learn better if you hold them back, right? You're just taking them out of their friends, their normal progression, which probably will piss them off. Um, so I think about social emotional learning. I need to meet the needs, emotional, social needs of these students. If I flunk any student, his or her social emotional needs are not met. You see what I'm saying? That's why I refuse to hold anybody back. I think it's morally wrong to hold anybody back. There's no good reason to flunk anybody. As long as they're coming to school every day, trying, I mean, they may. They may, you have to focus on social emotional needs because that's linked to motivation. Just because you hold the student back, it's not like the student is going to learn the stuff in the extra year that he's held back. You're just pulling him out of all his friends, right? You're making him feel inadequate because you're holding him back a grade. It's just, I think that's ethically and morally wrong. I'm opposed to holding anybody back. Um, and I would argue that one of the reasons why there's such a big dropout rate among students in inner city is some schools have this policy of flunking students. You're setting them up for failure. The social emotional learning is just as important as academic learning because we treat the whole person, cure our personalities. That's the motto of Georgetown University Nursing Department: treat the whole person, cure our personalities. So when people just focus on academia, they're treating human beings like objects. And in my opinion, you're objectifying human beings when you treat human beings just as an academic, you know, test score, that you can't do it like that. You know, people have weaknesses. Some people have more weaknesses than others. They have emotional needs. They have social needs. Um, and to ignore that and just say, oh, the person's 3 grade levels behind, so we're not going to advance her to 6th grade. You know, that is bad. And I think one of the reasons why there's a cycle of poverty in black neighborhoods is that there are a lot of white teachers. There are a lot of white teachers who teach in black schools. They have this very, very dogmatic notion, if I don't get all of it, I'm not going to let them through. It's like Nancy Pelosi with the stimulus check. She knows that American people, you guys out there, she knows that Democrats who are working class, they need the money. She knows that, Nancy Pelosi. But she's like a typical white teacher in an inner city public school who thinks that it's for the best. It's for the good of the kids, the black kids, to hold them back, right? Because they didn't get all the checklist. They didn't all the checklist, so we're going to hold them back, and we're helping them. So this is what I call like white colonialist mentality that Nancy Pelosi has. She doesn't think she has it, but she has it. Or what we call the white privilege. It's like you have to hit all the check marks. If you don't hit all the check marks, you cannot advance. And all the cultural issues, social, economic issues are pushed aside, and you only have that checklist, right? So it doesn't matter if Democrat, working class voters need the stimulus check. Nancy Pelosi is not going to sign off on the stimulus check because not all the check marks have been met. She's just like the kind of teachers that I see, white teachers who are Democrats or white progressives who think they're helping inner city, but who's destroying inner city. I mean, how do you help kids by holding them back a grade? They went from kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, 5th grade with same kids, right? They became friends with them because they're from the same neighborhood in the public school. How do you help them by holding them back, putting them in a foreign environment where they don't have any friends? Does that make sense to you? And this is the kind of thing like I see white teachers do in black neighborhoods. They want to hold kids back because they haven't met all the check marks. So I feel like they're objectifying it, these white, progressive, liberal, they went to like great schools, Harvard or, UVA or Dartmouth or, whatever, um, College of William and Mary. And they have specifically chosen to go teach in a black school because they're liberal, white progressives. They're like, I want to work in the inner city. But they bring this kind of colonialist mindset, what I call white privilege, into the schools. And they're voting Democrat, they talk the lingo, they want to get rid of the Confederate flag, they talk talk all the, they want to do reparations for slavery, blah, 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 blah. They talk the liberal lingo. So they think they're liberal and progressive, but they go in and they do more damage in black neighborhoods, in my opinion, because they want to hold the students back. And they're not willing to kind of meet the students where they are. Um, you know, and so, I have a problem with a lot of these white liberal progressives, who teach through the, Teach for America, that liberal progressive group. A lot of people go to Ivy League, Harvard, University of Pennsylvania, Dartmouth, Georgetown. They join Teach for America, and then they go in there and they like, act like they're colonialists. So I have a problem with that. Yeah, because you have to meet the needs of the students, and their families are there too. They're in that neighborhood. Um, yeah, but you see that, you see that with Nancy Pelosi, I mean, it's the same kind of mindset. You see what I mean? And because of the, the Jihari Square, it's their blind spot. They don't know that they have this problem, right? They think like they're liberal progressive and they're doing really good. Like Nancy Pelosi is like, well, we're trying to get all these liberal stuff that we need for all these people. So we're not going to sign off on the stimulus check for until we get all of these demands, right? That's how Nancy Pelosi is thinking. She's not thinking about you and your needs, the needs that you have right now to buy food for your children. She's like thinking about all these agenda items, right? Checklist items, and so that's why I think you should vote against Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, because this is a problem. In time of poverty, time of economic crisis, having these like checklists to prevent you from getting your stimulus check, this is a problem for you and your family. You're going to experience this. Like if Nancy Pelosi comes into power again, you're going to experience this problem again and again and again, right? Um, yeah, I mean, it's not fair to you. It's not fair to your children, who have to go without the $1,200 stimulus check you should have gotten like in August, or July. You should have probably gotten a third stimulus check by now in October. You see what I'm saying? Oh, see, Nancy Pelosi is holding that up because of her liberal agenda items. How do you justify that? You know? Um, yeah, I mean, this is why the worst scenario, worst case scenario is if Democrats get a lot of votes and have power. I think it's bad for black people. It's bad for Hispanic people. It's bad for white working class people. It's bad because there are things you need. Um, and Pelosi is going to hold them up. These ideological Democrats, they don't have problem with money. Nancy Pelosi is a millionaire. These Democrat politicians don't have to worry about money like you do, right? So I think that's the worst case scenario. Oh, did it? I showed you my pen, right? I love my pen. Isn't that really nice? Georgetown University pen. Yeah, it's a nice pen. Yeah. You may want to just come to Georgetown just for the pen. It's worth it. Yeah. I remember Georgetown is great, though. CNL 2020, yay! Georgetown University CNL, Clinical Nurse Leaders, yay! 2020, yay, we did it! Yeah, so yeah, it's bad right now. It's bad in America, but yeah, but you have this show. I love you guys. That's why I'm trying to save you and your children's lives. Where would you be without me? The liberal media is just telling you lies, telling you you're going to have your stimulus checks. Where's your stimulus check? Telling you that you're going to have your vaccine. Where's your vaccine? You see what I'm saying? I mean, I don't believe in the liberal media. Liberal media lies. Yeah. Um, yeah. So let's look at three articles that may be relevant to you. First article is another record shattered, 2,292 new Utah COVID-19 cases. That total top 600. So Utah had a late start. Even like up to like a month ago, they didn't have that many cases. Um, I mean, they kept breaking their own record, but we're talking about a few hundred. But now they went up to 2,292. And as you know, more cases, more death. More cases, more death. More cases, more death. More cases, more death, right? So, we're going to have more deaths in Utah. So Utah is going to expect over 100,000 deaths. As I've said before, all you need is 60,000 people to die in every state on average to have 3 million US citizens die from COVID-19 by June 2021. Do you see how I'm right? Right? I'm right. You're wrong. I'm right. You're wrong. I'm talking to you, Dr. Fauci. I'm talking to you, Dr. Gottlieb. I'm talking to you, Dr. Sanjay Gupta. I'm talking to you, Dr. Han. I'm talking to you, Edmund Gurr. I said this. I said every state in the United States will have 60,000 deaths, right? And some of you are like, oh, some states won't have that many cases. Well, yeah. When you were talking, they had a few hundred cases, maybe, or even less. So look, Utah has 2,292 cases. I was right. You're wrong. You see what I'm saying? This is why I'm the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century, because I could accurately assess based on numbers, patterns, and evidence-based research data that I read as a historian and as a scientist. As you know, I'm a clinical nurse leader, CNL, trained at Georgetown University for 2 years, intensive full-time program. There were 34 of us who came in, 25 of us graduated. And we are trained uh, also in public health area to find ways to save lives. That this is my public service to you. I am professionally trained to save your life. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing, right? Yeah. So let's read this article. That's why you should watch this show every day. Because right now, at the end of the day, whoever becomes president, what good is it if you're dead? What good is it if your children are dead, right? That's why you should watch this show every day. I mean, you don't want darkness to come upon you, that for you to become the dark period of your life as your loved ones die around you. See what I'm saying? That's why you need to watch this show every day. Get the facts. Um, so the first article is by Amy Donaldson in Desert News today. And the significant quote from that is, the Friday before the holiday season officially begins brought grim record breaking news about the state's COVID-19 cases. Utah smashed yet another daily record with 2,292 new positive cases. That number is 332 more than the previous record high of 1,960 just a week ago. 1 week ago on October 23rd. And 1 week later, Utah may be saying, we have 3,500 COVID-19 cases. You see what I'm saying? And then the death will follow. 4 to 5 weeks later, you will see death follow. Yeah. The high number led officials to take the unusual step of issuing nationwide text over the Amber Alert system. I mean, it's a statewide tragedy. I mean, we're talking about 100,000 people in Utah possibly dying, or maybe more than that, dying by June 2020. Of course, you should use the alert system. It's an emergency. And Friday's numbers also set a new record high in positive rate with a 7-day average of 18.2. So if they tested 10 people, 2 people had COVID. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Um, Second article, U.S. records 97,000 new COVID-19 cases, shattering daily record. This is like Dr. Fauci's worst nightmare come true. And this article is by Tal Axelrod on The Hill today. The significant quote from that is the U.S. recorded roughly 97,000 new coronavirus cases Friday, shattering the previous record of the highest number of new cases in a single day. Data from the COVID tracking project showed there were 97,080 new cases Friday, that's today, ushering in an alarming new milestone that comes as dozens of states across the country see spikes in infections. So let's round it up, 100,000, 3,000 will die, right? If you have 100,000 cases at 3% death rate, that 3,000 from one day's tally will die. In the winter, it could get up to 10%, so 10,000 can die. And flu season is only starting, which means we can have 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 getting COVID. You see what I'm saying? So if 300,000 people get COVID, at 3%, 9,000 of them from a single day tally will die. If the death rate is 10%, then 30,000 people will die. You see how that works? Death is coming. We're going to spike in death in 4 to 5 weeks. More cases, more death. More cases, more death. More cases, more death. More cases, more death. Yeah. The figure broke previous record of 88,521 new coronavirus cases, which had been set on Thursday. We're breaking record like one day after the day that the record was broken. The nationwide surge in cases come just ahead of a winter season, during which experts say the increase will be exacerbated. It'll be far, far, far worse. We need somebody to shed the light on this. You know, don't you see like emergency light, just like ringing, emergency light, call that 911, but don't call that 911 because we need the police officers to keep the peace on Tuesday if they can, right? The day of election. You know, a lot of people are thinking there's going to be violence, and I say you should expect violence, you know, in all 50 states, in every city. I mean, hopefully, you know, not too many people die, but I think it would be naive to say nobody will die in your city. I think that would be very naive to say. You know, if we could keep the death to under 100 on Tuesday night in your city, I think that's a success story. Like in New York, if you could make sure less than 100 die on Tuesday, I think you've succeeded in maintaining peace. Because I think it's going to get very, very violent, very, very violent. Because, you know, yeah, it's going to be very, very violent. I mean, hopefully not. You know, I mean, miracles do happen, but it is like near Halloween. So people will be like in Halloween mood rather than in a Christmas mood, if you know what I'm saying. And Halloween mood does not breed peace and safety. No. Yeah. Yeah, you should expect a lot of violence. I would stay inside on Tuesday, starting like at 4 p.m., not come out. You know, buy a double bolt lock if you have to. Have your defensive weapons ready at your home in case people invade your home. You have to be proactive, right? Especially we're not living in normal times. We're living in very unstable times. We're living in a very dangerous times. Yeah. I mean, you have to be realistic about what's going on right now. You know, you cannot live in the Disneyland forever. Um, and that's why you're blessed because I am here to shed light on on what's going on, so that even though you may not be able to see what's going on, you may think that it's invisible, that you're just standing there and you don't see it, but it's very real and it could appear at any time. Yeah, it's an emergency situation. Let's not kid ourselves. This is an emergency situation right now in many different ways. And to think that there's going to be peaceful day on Tuesday to Wednesday, I think you're not being realistic. Maybe COVID-19, America has kind of dulled your senses and dulled your rational mind. You know, um, yeah. I mean, you should expect mutual violence, mutual violence. Every city, you may have like 1,000 people die in a city like New York. You don't think that could happen? Come on, this is like somebody's going to get elected, right? People have hated Trump for 4 years, right? I mean, they've been bottling that up. If Trump loses, these are people who generally, maybe suppress their anger, who will let it out. Um, the silent majority, as they call it. I mean, whichever way it goes, there's going to be violence. Whether Biden wins or Trump wins, there will be violence. And I can assure you there are people looking to create violence right now. Some of them are planning it right now, both Biden supporters and Trump supporters. That's something you should be expecting, Not to expect that, you're just a bad governor, right? If Ralph Northam is not planning for any violence in Virginia and he's not mobilizing the National Guard, he's just a bad governor. That's what I'm saying. You have to anticipate potential massive violence to prevent massive death. Yeah. The nationwide surge in cases comes just ahead of a winter season during which experts say the increase will be exacerbated. So remember, everybody is angry at COVID, both people who support wearing masks as well as people who don't want to wear masks. They're all angry. Um, and their anger can explode on Tuesday night. Yeah, I don't think you should be surprised if 1,000 people die in New York on Tuesday night, or 2,000. I mean, if you have a citywide violence, um, anything can happen. Yeah, you gotta plan for the unexpected. Hopefully, I mean, if there's no violence, great. Obviously, great. Give me five. We didn't have violence. Yay. Yay. We didn't have violence. We just set up the riot gear and police, but there was no violence. Great. Give me five on no violence. No violence. Yay. We spent Tuesday night peacefully. Well, that'll be great. But, Trump supporters and Biden supporters may be killing each other. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen on Tuesday night? You just better be ready, especially if you're the police. Well, unfortunately, now they're going to target the police. Before defund police, they were afraid of the police. So if the police showed up, they'll run away. But now after defund police, they're like lying in wait. They're like plotting against the police. They're going to try. What happened in Los Angeles with those two police officers, right? They're going to try to entrap the police and kill a lot of police officers. These crazy defund police people. Yeah, I think every city you have them. Yeah, so police are not safe. I mean, they're trying to maintain safety, but they themselves are not safe. They themselves are targets. Um, that's where we are right now in COVID-19 America. Yeah, let's just get real here. You know, there's no reason to live in a fake world. Let's just be real about this. Um, the third article, uh, the title is "We're in the Surge. Wisconsin hospitals face record number of COVID-19 patients." Who are those people who said COVID-19 will be like just asymptomatic, mild cases? You were wrong, and I was right. I told you COVID-19 hospitalization will go up. We're just starting the flu season. We have 6 more months to go. That's October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. We have like more than 6 months to go. And death will be exponentially growing. It will be exacerbated than what is now. We're going to have 6 more months of COVID proliferation and death spiking. That's what we're looking at right now. 6 more months. October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. More than 6 months. More than 6 months. But I warned you. You cannot say I did not warn you. I had this show since April 2nd. And I've warned you for months that this is coming. I am the Leonardo da Vinci of the 21st century. Someone like me comes around only once every 500 years. And you doubt me? Are you kidding me? I've been right every step. I said everybody needs to wear a mask in April when people were saying, don't wear a mask. You remember Dr. Fauci saying, don't wear a mask? Do you remember Dr. Gupta saying, don't wear a mask? I always said, wear a mask. Things are bad. Things are bad. It's only going to get worse. Hospitals are going to be filled. I'm predicting that every hospital in this area will be completely filled by November. Completely filled by November. Like no beds left. That's Virginia Hospital Center where I work as a nurse, registered nurse. As you know, I have a registered nurse RN license from state of Virginia, which is multi-state license. It's good in like 30 states. I also have Washington, D.C. registered nurse license because Washington, D.C. does not participate in multi-state. California doesn't either. Pennsylvania doesn't either. So you have to get a separate one. Every hospital in this area will be filled, packed to capacity in November. So Virginia Hospital Center, Innova Fairfax Hospital, Innova Alexandria Hospital, MedStar Georgetown University Hospital, MedStar Washington Hospital Center, Children's National Hospital, George Washington University Hospital, Sibley Hospital, Suburban Hospital, everything's going to be packed. And as you know, I'm predicting that minimum 10,000 nurses will die by Christmas 2020. See, you're doubting me now, right? You doubted me when I said this 1 month ago. You doubted me when I said this 2 months ago. But now that you're seeing the figures, facts and figures, so you see that my prediction is becoming true. Obviously, that's not what I want to happen, but that's what I see from a scientific evidence and critical analysis. That's what I see happening. I see what mere mortals cannot see. That's what makes me Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century. If everybody saw everything, then no one would be superior in intellect or analysis or observation or synthesis, right? That's why some are superior to others in intellect. We're not all equal in intellect. That's why you need experts. And I'm an expert. And I've been consistently right. So I'm predicting that 10,000 nurses in the United States will die before Christmas from COVID-19. Many more, obviously, will be hospitalized. Some hospitals will lose up to 50% of their nurses to either death or COVID-19 sickness. We have 6 more months of COVID-19 to go. The priority for hospitals is to make sure that nurses don't get COVID. That has to be the absolute priority right now. Because you can even have extra beds. If you don't have nurses, your patients will die. Our death rate could go to 20, 30%. So out of 100 people who get COVID, 30 people could die. Do you know when nursing profession started with Nightingale? That in a war zone, out of 1,000 soldiers, 800 died. Yeah, that could happen. 80% could die. And then Florence Nightingale, she is the mother of nursing. She came into scene and she did sepsis control, infection control, and she reduced the death to like less than 25% of people in the battlefield. And this is why nursing saved lives, because doctors were always there, right? Before Florence Nightingale and after Florence Nightingale, doctors were always there. But Florence Nightingale's infection control reduced death to like 25%. So out of 1,000, it used to be like 800 died. After Florence Nightingale, like 250 died. So something like 550 people were saved by nursing. This is why nursing became so important. Florence Nightingale proved beyond shadow of the doubt that nurses save lives. So if you have a hospital where more than 10% of nurses are not there, you can expect your patients to die in large numbers. There are points in patient care where a patient could get unresponsive, like a totally normal patient can stop being able to respond to anything. They're headed to death. I mean, it's clear to everybody that this person could die in a few hours. Now, if there is excellent nursing care, that person will be able to survive that particular crisis in that person's health care and live through it and come back to a point where they can start talking again. But if there aren't enough nurses, that person could die. Same person, same situation. What makes the difference is 1 or 2 less nurses could mean that person dies and not lives. That's how important nursing care is. So if you have a hospital lose 10 to 20% of nurses to COVID-19 death or illness, that hospital is going to have significantly larger number of people die just because there are fewer nurses. I'm trying to shed some light on this situation. Why are nurses heroes? Why are nurses important? Because if you don't have nurses, hospitals cannot run. Healthcare systems don't work. This is why every hospital's priority is to ensure the nurses don't get COVID and die or get sick. That's like absolute priority number one for every single hospital in the United States right now. We already have a nurse shortage going into 6 months of flu season on COVID-19 death. Every hospital in this area may have 10 to 20% of nurses get sick with COVID and not be able to work as nurses or die from COVID. Can you imagine what will happen to you if you're resident of Arlington, resident of Alexandria, resident of Falls Church, or resident of Fairfax County? If this happens to your area hospitals, like Fairfax Hospital, Virginia Hospital Center, Alexandria Hospital, MedStar Georgetown Hospital, George Washington University Hospital, MedStar Children's National Hospital, Sibley Hospital. Yeah, your chance of dying has just gone up exponentially. This is what we're looking at. Because you may not think COVID-19 is there. You may not think that COVID-19 death is coming, but it's coming. COVID-19 death is coming, and it's coming for you and your children. And that's the very important fact that you must not forget. COVID-19 death is coming for you and your children. And we have 6 months left. October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. You probably believe in the liberal media and we're counting on vaccine being here, right? Didn't you? Yeah, you believe in the liberal media. That was your problem. Right? So you didn't prepare, did you? As I said, there's not going to be a vaccine that works. Just because somebody calls it a vaccine, it's not the real thing. COVID-19 is too complex for a vaccine to work. It's not going to work. And I think experts and scientists are coming to realization it's far more complex than HIV, far more complex than hepatitis C, and neither of them have vaccines. And they've been working on a vaccine for decades. And COVID-19 is not going to go away. It's forever. It's a people-to-people transmission. As long as somebody's infecting someone, it's going to live on. Yeah, it's not going to go away. That's why I'm encouraging U.S. Department of Defense to develop advanced respirators for U.S. citizens, next generation, because it's not going to go away. We have simple masks we're using. We need advanced respirators for every single U.S. citizen, because this thing is forever, most likely. But right now, that's a long-term thing that we need to worry about. But now the immediate worry is, will you survive this flu season? Will you and your children survive this flu season? That is the immediate concern that you need to think about, you and your family. Do you think you can survive? So let me just read that article from the beginning. Hospitals in Wisconsin are seeing record numbers of COVID-19 patients. The consequence of weeks of unchecked spread of pandemic across the state. It's like Virginia, our Democratic governor, Ralph Northam, hasn't shut anything down, and it's spreading like wildfire. We have like over 1,500 cases. Like, Utah had what, 1,900 cases last week. Unchecked spread of pandemic across the state. It's just like Virginia. The increase has put hospitals at above 90% of their capacity in some regions. And workers are putting into place surge plans they made months ago in the first days, like this is in March. But remember, you have 6 more months to go of the flu season. You know when March is? You know when April is? Right now it's October, November, December, January, February, March. You have like 6 months to go. 6 months to go. 6 months to go. Yeah. The surge plan that you had in March is not going to work. Not going to work because we have 6 more months of flu season. Um, but you know, when you have nothing, you got to use something, right? That's what's going on. They're using something that in March. So they made months ago in the first stage of pandemic. So they're putting that surge plan into place, but haven't had to use until now. We have 6 more months of COVID-19 proliferation to go. 6 more months. That's a half a year. Quote, we are in the surge, said Tammy Simon, Vice President of Patient Safety at Marshfield Clinic. Maybe it's apropos that it's Halloween tomorrow. Because this is like news from the netherworld. It's like ghouls and monsters being unleashed. Worse than that. Because at least ghouls and monsters you can see and fight. COVID-19 is invisible. You can't see it. I hope that you and your family will survive COVID-19. I hope that your family will be well, that you'll be well, and that your children will be well. I would prioritize watching this show every day because you need the information to help you survive COVID-19. That should be your priority now because if you don't survive COVID-19, what good is what you own? When you're dead, you cannot take it with you. You need to prioritize that. So I would prioritize watching this show every day. Um, if you're married, watch it with your wife and discuss it. Particularize it for your family. How are you going to use this analysis, expert analysis, and information to help your family survive COVID? That should be everyday topic between husband and wife who have children. You have to make sure they survive. You have to put into a you have to put a plan into place for your own family. That's up to you. That's on you. But I'm here to help you and guide you. So you're very, very blessed. And you can see this as love of God for you and your family. Because can you imagine if you did not have any guidance? Can you imagine where you would be? You'd be like walking in the dark by yourself, not knowing where to go, what to do. That's where you would be.